In this video, we are going to talk about semantic and episodic memory. If you'll recall, long-term memory can be separated into declarative or explicit memory and non-declarative or implicit memory. In this video, we are going to focus on declarative memory and specifically the two types of declarative memory, semantic memory and episodic memory. So the green area of the chart. Semantic memory consists of the factual and conceptual knowledge about the world and the words used to symbolize such knowledge. So this type of memory supports our language and our ability to use language and consists of conceptual information and basic general world knowledge. Some examples of semantic memory include spotting a bike on campus and the knowledge that it is a bike, or just knowing that dogs bark, or even what skipping rope is. Semantic memory can also involve what are called scripts, such as knowing what to do when you go out to eat. You know that usually somebody will seat you at a table, that you'll be handed a menu, that you get to pick whatever you want to eat off of the menu. You have a waiter or waitress that gets your food for you. The restaurant staff will prepare the meal for you. You need to pay for your meal before you leave, and so on. So all of that general knowledge that goes into that script. Semantic memory also involves what are referred to as schemas, which include things such as what the characteristics of a nice person are. That, for example, a nice person might do a favor for you or might smile at you, and a nice person isn't going to steal something from you or call you names, for example. Episodic memory, on the other hand, is memory of the personally experienced and remembered events of a lifetime. So this is going to involve memory from one's own perspective, so not events that occurred to somebody else that you may just know about. And it also involves a component of space and time, where something happened and when it was. So some examples of episodic memory include your memory of your 16th birthday party, or how you heard about the attack on the World Trade Center, or even as simple as eating breakfast this morning, what time it was, whether it tasted good, or if you were rushed. It could also include memories of the time you and your best friend laughed so hard that you peed your pants, for example. Episodic memory can interact with semantic memory. For example, when semantic memory serves as a memory aid in placing episodes in time. So for example, you might be saying to yourself, it must have been on a Monday because that is the day I have time to go to the dentist. And it's also important to remember that even though episodic memory involves memory for an episode, when it happened, where it happened, it must necessarily involve you remembering that experience. So for example, you may know that you were born on May 5th, 1980 in Chicago, but if you don't remember the experience, then it's not considered an episodic memory. That would be considered a semantic memory. Okay, so let's do a little test and see if you can identify whether each of these items is an example of a semantic memory or an episodic memory. Dogs can't fly. Is that semantic or episodic? The answer is that this would be a semantic memory because unless you've actually run some experiments and witnessed and remember seeing that dogs can't fly, this would just be some general world knowledge that you know about. You don't remember it, but you know. Let's try another one. How about memory for when you last rode a bicycle? And go ahead and pause this video if you need to think about it for a second. So the answer is this would be an example of an episodic memory because you're probably remembering the actual experience of when you last rode a bicycle. Next one. Knowing that Christmas is on the 25th of December. So I gave you a hint here. I said knowing instead of remembering. You probably know that Christmas always falls on the 25th of December. Perhaps you remember a particular Christmas that just happened to be on the 25th of December, but the general knowledge that Christmas is always on the 25th of December is an example of a semantic memory. Spilling your drink all over the table. So this is probably something you remember rather than that you just know it. So that would be an example of an episodic memory if you remember that experience. Perhaps you remember how you felt about it and what spilled and how badly it spilled and whether it stained anything. How about the concert that you went to? Well, because you actually went to the concert, that's likely an episode that you remember, so that would be an episodic memory. And finally, knowing that The Tonight Show comes on at 10:35 p.m. So again, even though we have a specific time in here, this is general knowledge that you know about. Now, if you remember sitting down on your couch last night at exactly 10:35 p.m. to watch The Tonight Show, then that would be an example of an episodic memory. So you may have noticed as we went through the previous list of examples that I asked if it was something that you remembered or if it was just something that you knew. This is a common technique that researchers use to distinguish between episodic and semantic memories in research participants. To give them a list of items or words that they need to remember, participants are then given a new list of items and words and are asked whether each item on the list is one from the previous list, an old item, or if they are seeing or hearing it for the first time, meaning that it would be a new item. And usually half the words are from the old list and half are new. When participants report that a word is old, meaning that it was on the previous list, they are then asked if they remember the word being on the list or if they just know it was on the list. So in other words, do they have an episodic memory of the word being on the list? They can actually remember seeing it or hearing it, or do they just know it was on the list, but they can't actually remember the moment that it was presented? So once again, a really great tip for distinguishing episodic from semantic memories is whether it's something that you remember or something that you know.